Hi kids, welcome to another episode of Geargasms. I'm your humble host, Alan Barnes. And today what I'm going to be doing is showing you a basic technique that involves just the basic hammer-ons. Now, standard disclaimer, I am not a teacher. I took guitar lessons for 10 months, way back in like the late 50s. And we didn't even have hammer-ons then. So I'm not a certified trainer. I'm not trained to train. I'm a terrible guitar teacher. But my son is 16 and he's learning how to play guitar, and so he's asking me a lot of things, show me this, show me that. And I thought, well, you know, rather than just stopping and showing him the same thing 10 times, why don't I just do it once for the YouTube show, and then I can help some other kids out. And it got me thinking about things that are mysterious to us when we're first starting out to play guitar. Things that don't come naturally, things that aren't instinctive. And one of those things that gets overlooked is hammer-ons. And you can't really discuss hammer-ons without also discussing pull-offs. I'm just gonna show you simply on a fairly standard guitar, standard tuning, standard cleanish amp tone, and just show you kind of basic hammer-ons that I'm gonna break down into 3 kinds. The first kind of hammer-on that I'm talking about is just your standard hammer-on, where it generally starts from your first finger and it goes to any other finger. We'll call that type 1. So it could be your first finger to the third, which is the one people naturally do. Or it could also be the first to the fourth finger, which is less natural to do. But it could also be first to second. So that's hammer-on type 1. The second type of hammer-on is going to be what I call not the first finger. So a lot of people, when they're doing a hammer-on, let's say it's a 2-fret stretch, and so they do a hammer-on from finger 1 to finger 3. But let's just say that finger 2 is what's on the 3rd fret in this previous example, and I still want to do that 2-fret hammer-on. I might do 2 to 4. Which is a little trickier, and it seems like a small thing, but it's a lot harder than it looks. So anything that starts with something other than the first finger and hammers on with subsequent fingers is going to be considered type 2, and that could also be, you know, 3rd to 4th. And the third type is what I would call, and I don't know if this is the right term, but you can skewer me in the comments if I'm saying it wrong. I call them compound hammer-ons, and that would be where you hammer on more than one note. You start, let's say, with the first finger, and you hammer on the next 2 fingers for 2 notes of hammer-on, like this. Could be 3. Now, if you hear what I'm doing right there, you hear what is a common mistake, and I did that on purpose because I never make mistakes. And understand that none of these people on YouTube ever make mistakes. Everything they do for you, first take. No editing, no BS. Same thing here. No, but seriously, I do leave some things in that are going to be mistakes, if only to point them out, but also to let you know that even after X number of years of playing guitar, you know, no one's perfect. You still are going to make mistakes, and a lot of the kids that are watching these YouTube videos, they see these guys, and I'll tell you something, no matter how good of a player they are, I bet you money that a lot of what you see on your video screen is their 3rd, 4th, 100th take. Maybe it's been edited, but they're not going to show you their clams. No one wants to do that. But understand, don't let that get you discouraged, because you see these guys on YouTube and they never had a bad note, and you feel like you're not getting anywhere and you sound terrible. Believe me, those guys hit bad notes. I hit plenty of bad notes. So anyway, what we'll start off with is the first type of hammer-on, which is just the single hammer-on starting with the first finger. And again, forget about your right hand in this episode. Stick it down the back of your pants and scratch your butt with it. You really don't need it except for to pick the first note. So just pick that first note and then get it the hell out of the way. Maybe check your phone messages or something with it while you're doing the hammer-ons. And it doesn't, for this exercise, matter where on the neck we're doing this, except that hammer-ons against different stretches might require your hand to shift. You might be, if your hand is against the back of it, you may roll it underneath to get more spread, like this. You may find that the hammer-on that you're doing on the tip of the neck, you might want to have your thumb wrapped like it is here. But certainly, there's a sweet spot in the neck, and we'll say it's from the 7th fret probably to the 15th, where you can get all 4 fingers in that compound hammer-on pretty easily. But as the fret space gets smaller and you're trying to roll up 3 more notes, 4 fingers in a row up there, sometimes it can get a little tricky. And the opposite is true when you get into the lower part of that. The stretches are longer and they're sometimes more tricky to get into. I'm on the D string, I'm in standard tuning. Don't worry if you're not, it's not about the notes, it's about the feel. You want to start off as any note, anything you're going to do, the first note that you pick, your finger needs to be in the right spot. Don't have it too close to the back of the fret. Don't have it too far back. But make sure that note is solid, because that'll kind of feed what happens with the note that comes after it. So you just play the note, and then you try the hammer-on. Note, then hammer-on. Now when you get a little more polished at it, you go note, hammer-on. If you're working on your vibrato, it's not a bad time to work this into the exercise. And this exercise is something you can do with high gain, with a clean sound. It's even an exercise that you can do with the amp turned completely off, just to get the mechanics of it. As a matter of fact, I recommend doing that, because you can really hear the notes and you can really tell if you nailed the hammer-on and the amp isn't carrying you at all. So if you miss it, it's more obvious. So just start off anywhere on the neck that you like, any string that you like, and just start with just a simple hammer-on. Try moving around. Now I just worked from a wound string to an unwound string, and you probably saw the difference there. Some people find that hammer-ons are easier to do on the plain strings, G through E. Some find them easier to do, and they tend to ring out more, maybe a little bit on the wound strings. I find that the technique for the wound versus the unwound strings for a hammer-on is kind of the same. You might approach the angle of your finger a little bit differently as you hit it. But basically just an exercise, just so that neck stretch isn't a part of this exercise. You can work into that later. Stay between the 5th and the 10th fret, and just start with, like going up the string, start with the first note on the E string, which is an A, 5th fret, and then hammer on to the 7th fret. Then do the next string, then the next string, string after that. And what you'll notice too is sometimes when you're new to playing guitar, you think you have to hit it a lot harder than you have to. I found that I try to use the least amount of pressure on a note that I need to make the note sing, and make sure I can hold it and hold it steady. Don't curl your hands up too much like that and try to come down too vertically into the hammer-on. So just practice going up the strings. It won't hurt if you're already familiar with pull-offs and you want to just work that hammer a little bit to sort of do a hammer-on pull-off trill kind of thing to go. But you can hear what's happening there is when I'm coming off, it's hitting the other notes. And again, don't worry about that, because right now we're not getting into palm muting or anything like that. If you get thinking about your right hand too much, you're going to screw up with your left hand. Just focus on the left hand thing. If you make a little noise, don't worry about it. So once you got that down, try some variations of it. Try some other fingers. We talked about starting with the first finger and ending up with something other than just the third. Try it with your 4th finger. Also try it with just the 1st and 2nd fingers, which it feels weird, it's trickier to do. If you want to see how solid your hammer-on is, try just doing one and stopping and see how long the sustain goes, because if you do, you can hear the note kind of ringing out. You've done it right. So the second type of hammer-on that we're going to do is type 2, where something other than the first finger is not the first note, and those things get a little squirrely and a little tricky. I'm on the D string, 5th fret, 2nd finger, so you're going to want to go from finger 2 to finger 4. That feels really weird when you're doing it. And if you'll notice, I've got this finger up, which is probably not the right way to do it. What you're going to want to do is anytime you have fingers behind a finger that can support that note, sometimes it's better to, rather than having it off, have it just behind the finger that you're playing, so your fingers look like this before you start, and you're going to pluck this note and then just hammer on with the third one. So try that back and forth, and then try the 2nd finger to the 4th finger. The third type of hammer-on is the compound hammer-on, where you're hammering on successive notes. You're picking the first one and you're hammering on, let's say, the 3rd and the 4th finger. Like compound hammer-on all 4 fingers. Now you'll notice the compound hammer-ons take the most hand strength, but it's a good hand exercise. If you're just doodling around, you don't have the guitar plugged in, mom's not home yet, or maybe she is and she's watching her soaps that she DVR'd, and you're in there and you're supposed to be doing your homework, and if she hears your amp, you're so busted. Keep the guitar unplugged, she won't hear it, turn it down and just go. So try the 3 types, the simple hammer-on starting with the first finger to any other finger. Then practice with the 2nd finger as the root and just doing the other 2 fingers, which is a simple hammer-on with something other than the index finger as the bass. And then try the compound hammer-on, where there's multiple fingers. And you can even do compound hammer-ons starting with the 2nd. You can combine the 3 types and make hybrid weird types like this one. So you can do that all day long, and you'll find that your hammer-ons will get stronger, they'll get louder. The goal is, for the most part when you're learning, is to make the hammered note be at least as loud as the pick note or close to it. Sometimes for effect you want the pick note to be sort of a ghost note, and you really want to pound the hammer on, then you want to bend it and get crazy with it. But there's other times where you want the first note picked note to be stronger, and you want the hammer-ons to be more subtle. Now once you get that technique down, the next lesson I'll probably work on is pull-offs, and we'll sort of combine the two things together once those two techniques are learned. Anyway, that's my lesson on hammer-ons. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you see, please subscribe, click the bell if you want to get notifications, like the video, and we will see you next time on Geargasms.